Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Majors series and welcome to a widely anticipated race. It is 2 hours of racing. We're going back in time to not only go and have some fun with prototypes like our HPD, but jumping into the monsters of GT1, Aston Martin, Chevrolet here at Sebring. And it is just another round of the legendary Majors Series America. My name is Stephen Koenig, joining out on the comms, and who's going to be handling all the cameras, we got Mike Taylor. Mike, welcome to Sebring. This is a incredible circuit and combo.
Yes, absolutely. And, I got to witness the first two races, for the International and the Euro. And both of them provided two different types of racing, but both of them brought in drama on both of them. Just absolutely phenomenal. If you guys came in and watched the Euro, let me tell you guys what, this race, there is something about America's, because these guys get crazy and these guys push the hardest, they race the hardest, and tonight we are looking for an amazing show.
With that being said, it is round 3 on the calendar. The drivers are going to be really seeing what they can do. We had the Intimidator that kept people busy, but now for the America side, the standings are getting a little bit tight. Drivers now getting their selection of multi-class racing. You get to score points, whether you're in the HPD class or in the GT1s, battling it out. And currently, top of the charts. Dallas Patuca holds in 6th with Nathan Dowd. Eric Della Riva in 8th. 9th is Christian Chandler and Chris Yanetto. And you've got to remember that we have got a race within a race within a race. We've got pro drivers, we've got Sport Silver and Sport Bronze. They're all going to be battling out. You're going to see all 3 of these classes of drivers in the mix of vehicles running in the Aston Martin, the Chevrolet, and the HPD. My favorite of the prototypes being an open cockpit design. And drivers are getting their little bit of practice in just before they go racing. It's 2 hours of racing. Old school cars, old school circuit. Sebring, incredibly bumpy, that you've really got to knuckle down to get the pace. But if you are just pushing too hard, those walls to the left and to the right of you are just close enough to ensure that you will be visiting the pits with 3 wheels instead of 4. And I've got to say, you've got to be brave on the circuit if you want to be fast. So as we take a look at Christian Abbott, currently out for the Mega Racing team. He's holding 5th place at the moment. He's got likes of Walling further up in 4th. Quickest lap time is a 1:49.4 set by Banfield, hoping to really set the world ablaze this time by, and we'll be really thinking of what he can do to stand at the top of the order. Each of the drivers going to be looking at what is going to be the quickest ways around, who's going to save the most amount of fuel, and who's going to be able to stay right to the top of the racing. Now, my question, if you had to think about a circuit that is challenging, it's old school design, and will keep people on the feet, Sebring is one of those circuits I personally think of to go and really test my mettle with each of these different cars. Doesn't matter if you're in the more modern machinery like the GT3s, which came after the GT1s. GT1s unfortunately outpriced itself out of the market, but you get to see all the action on a legendary circuit like this.
Yeah, Sebring is definitely a circuit of its own. This used to be a very old World War II bombing site, at this, circuit.
And also taking a lot of different cues from your bigger races. Now, we talk about lots of different cues. This circuit was designed as the America version of Le Mans. That's why you've got a couple of corners that literally refer to Le Mans. The back straight going and referring. But let's take a look at who's starting where. Ross Banfield starts in first place with Robert Nash in second. Christian Abbott in third place. Austin Peterson in fourth. Shane Vicari in fifth, along with Garen Batten, Travis Walling, Caleb O'Gara, Brian Zinn, along with David Becker, Ryan Worley, and Richard McClure currently in 12th place. The Dog Bear Growl team hoping to get a little bit further up. Lionel Callisto in 13th place with Mark Stevenson, Joseph Human, along with Sebastian Jackson, Matthew Bohm, Wayne Hutchison, Jason Lottridge, and Jason McSpearin rounds out in 20th. Last of our HPDs is Chris Yeto. And then we move on to our GT1s. It's Nathan Dowd, followed by Christian Chandler, and Austin O'Neill currently running third of our GT1s in 24th position. A little bit further down, it's Brenton Foster in 25th with Trevor Vorosky in 26th. Eric Della Riva, along with Dallas Patuka, Kevin Hill, Lyndon Swaby, Bradley Haley, Ulrich Smith, along with Kevin Heaton, Bruce Roberts, Nick Kuan, and Everson Josenfield in 36th position. So as we get further down the order, it's Brett Patukin, along with Dick Miller, Daniel Howard, Brian Barnes, Ryan Steely, and rounding out the pack is David Wilson, who's going to be trying to claw his way back. Qualifying was done earlier during the course of the week, and the drivers now have got 2 hours to focus on what they need to do as they line up behind our iRacing safety car. And we also brought it back in time. We're back in the Porsche to see what the drivers can do. I am excited about this, but at the same time, nervous. Drivers haven't been in these cars for too long. The series is all about putting drivers into very interesting machinery, and now we're getting to see what they can do in a little bit of a classics. And if you really want to see how often these cars are raced, well, it's once a week on the iRacing service after coordinated efforts. But here at Majors, we wanted to go and spice things up compared to last year, where they didn't actually run. So, Mike, your thoughts on this race? Any idea who is going to be at the top of the log come the end of it? I gotta say, it's going to be hard to tell, in my personal opinion, because once you get going with the HPDs, you are a bit quicker than the GT1s. You used to race together on the iRacing service. GT1s will straight line these cars, but in corners, they'll have to wait. And that means these HPD drivers will have to contend with GT1 traffic that has got understeer, not so great on the brakes, and they will have to just maneuver nice and easily. If we go back to the TCRs a little bit when we saw Australia, we were having a bit of fight with all the drivers. There was no way of saying who's going to win it. We go to the Intimidators, the last round. Unfortunately, drivers that we thought were going to be at the top, well, guess what? Lady Luck was not on their side, dropped through the field, and that changed the championship all over again. Now multi-class racing, where you can score points in 2 different classes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as you said, we have no clue who is going to win this. Like, I could throw out names: Garen Batten, Christian Abbott, he's fast. David Baker, and then jumping back here to the GT9.
And we're back. Sorry about that, folks. A little bit of excitement coming from our cameras. I think everyone's getting right on the edge of the seat. This is going to be an interesting run. 6-kilometer circuit, 3.7 miles of racing track, 2 hours of action on Sebring. I mean, this is where it's going to get exciting. Pit stops are also going to be very key here, Mike, because we've got to remind ourselves pit stops is what changed the entire Intimidator run. Everyone that thought they were going to move forward, guess what? Life changed, and now they have to focus at the race. They're heading down the back straight at the moment, and we'll have to see where everyone ends up.
Right, and with
Mike, your thoughts?
and real quick, caution. A caution could come out in any point. In the international, 45 minutes left in the race, a caution came out. Last race, no caution. What's going to happen here? That could change the whole game as well as we go green flag here at Sebring.
Green flag and all looking clean. Great start. But now into turn one, it's going to be side by side as each of the drivers trying to figure out where they can go. 2, 3 wide, and we've already got an accident with our HPDs into turn one. Unfortunately, Christian Abbott being one of those drivers that landed up along with Caleb Aguirre all the way from Puerto Rico, getting turned round and is at the back. Our GT1s making their way through, all looking pretty clean with great side-by-side battles, but already drama kicking in for our HPDs, and we just got going. Each of the drivers now have to pick themselves off the floor, and also how much damage has occurred to these drivers. This is going to be an interesting one run. So now it's game on for the race. 2 hours of it. Mike, this is where going and pushing hard on the start can be an absolute nightmare. What's your take to it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, messing up turn one on lap one, you know, that's not going to do him any good. Abbott, he now has a meatball that he has to come in and get repairs done. Also, we just got word, Travis Whirling in that number 90 machine, he's also got a meatball from here on lap one. This is not doing these guys any favors, because this right here is going to be at least a 6-minute repair.
They do have a fast repair available to get themselves going. However, it's not what you want to get caught up with. And each of the drivers now having to utilize something that you wanted to save towards the end of the race. Well, you're going to use a little too early. Travis Walling into pit lane already. Christian Abbott's going to be the next one to go. But at the moment, it's Ross Banfield at the top of the HPDs with Robert Nash, Austin Peterson holding on to third place. And each of the drivers moving forward. Nathan Dowd along with Christian Chandler and Austin O'Neill trying to move their way forward. And we'll be trying to figure out what is the great time to go. Travis Walling, a quick stop, got himself sorted out, and will continue on the race at hand. But Ross holds on to the top of the log for our HPD, but he's got Robert Nash right on the back of him, trying to push a little bit harder. As you can see, trains starting to open up. However, our GT1's extremely close. Nathan Dowd, Christian Chandler, and Austin O'Neill right on the back of one another, as you do have the screaming Astons trying to pull away from the original V8 muscle, the supercharged V8 from the Chevs. Christian hanging on to the back, wanting to just utilize the toe. This is where you're going to do a little bit of lift-off coasting to just carry the momentum through to see what is going to be the big plan in your race. It's all about your strategies that come into play.
Yeah, definitely. Strategy is very, very important here. You know, especially in these really long races like this. You know, you want to push hard, but you also got to remember, this is a very old circuit. As we just got word, Mark Stevenson had an issue.
Mark Stevenson having an issue. Taking a look at the second monitor I've got right now. We just can't see off the primary monitor. Let's try and see what happens with Mark Stevenson, who is looking very, very broken. Right-hand side, game, set, match on the car. And he's just trying to limp the car back to pit lane. That's going to be a fast repair needed. And that will be his only life taken away. And it now has to be rather careful. But he's going to have to do the same as what Travis Whirling has to do. Claw his way back through the field. Christian Abbott leaving pit lane in the muscle mold colors will now have to try and see what he can do to stay in for the fight. It's going to be a difficult one. So early in the race, not really where you want to be, trying to slice your way through the GT1 field on the same lap. But you've got to be well enough aware that they are in a fight as well, and you can't just muscle your way through the cars. You're going to have to just take it little by little. So Christian Chandler holds on to the lead of the GT1s. All running line of sight. Nathan Dowd not too concerned. Ross Banfield with Robert Nash all having an easy time. But it's down to 6th place of the HPDs with the likes of Ryan Worley and Brian Zinn, who are keeping close to one another. Swapping in terms of lap times. They're quite happy to give it that extra little bit of a push. We're starting to see the battles of duos and trios as everyone's waiting for their opportunity to move forward. No one wants to take the gamble and just leapfrog the grid at the moment. They know there's a long race that's to be had. They're trying to plan out their stops, and this is where it's going to be all about endurance. Are you going to tire yourself out off start? Are you going to keep the pressure on to your team and say, right, what do we need to do here? How are we going to move forward? But also, are you willing to take risks all the way through? We like Austin O'Neill at the moment, who's running 3rd place in the GT1s, trying to keep on the back of Nathan Dowd. You can see how he gets into the slipstream, and he's actually lifting off in the straight. He's trying to save that bit of fuel. He's just focusing on just moving that little bit of time. Takes a dive into turn 1, up on the inside, couldn't quite get it done, and the Aston Martin having the rear kicking out underneath. There's got very, very rudimentary versions of traction control on these cars. It's there, it's just not quite what you know from your more modern counterparts of your GT3s. Mike, you got a very good one. Do you know that GT1, GT2, we obviously know that was the GT formula to go for. However, do you know why GT3 came about?
I actually, I'm not necessarily very familiar with like the world of road racing. I grew up watching NASCAR, and I only really started getting heavy into road racing maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. So I can't tell you why GT3s came about.
So, one little fact. Everyone started having a great time with GT1, but the cars became more and more expensive as time gone on. They changed it to a little bit more aerodynamic. They had sequential gearboxes in it. It started becoming more and more of the best tech that you can fit into a prototype, put into a GT body. Started losing the idea of, hey, this was the same as your road-going counterpart. However, GT2 came around. It was more of a gentleman's drivers, and once again, more and more development into these cars, more aerodynamic packages, more power, and also going that extra mile. There was eventually a push for a more affordable class that was far more restricted than your GT1 and GT2 counterparts, and that got brought in as GT3. The closest you can get to your road cars, highly restricted in terms of power, what goes into the car, the actual width of the car, length of the cars, and drivetrains of the car. So they became as the more affordable series and was meant to be your gentleman drivers class. It's your, well, you're not there to be the top of the top, you're there to enjoy the day. However, as things went up in cost, GT3 became more and more popular. The GT1 and GT2 field thinned out and landed up falling into oblivion. But it's also the same way GTE went, where highly modified cars closer to your prototypes instead of GT counterparts, and landed up going that extra mile, unfortunately meeting into its oblivion. I prefer the GT1 side, just brute force horsepower. It's so much fun to drive these cars in the iRacing service, especially the GT1s, is closer to driving what the supercars feel like. It is difficult, it requires that little bit of effort, and it will get you're going. You have to brake that little bit later. You can't stand on the anchors last minute. It just requires a bit of finesse and sometimes grab it around the collar and go. Now, I do want to point out we do have a car in the pits with a meatball flag, and that is Ulrich Smith, who unfortunately landed up with a problem, and his Chevrolet looking a little bit secondhand. Looks like they're not going to be using the fast repair, and unfortunately waiting it out at the moment. Will be sitting, listening to the cars, sitting with frustration at the moment. But like, all looking clean at the moment, but I'm waiting to see what's going to happen as our HPDs are starting to make a little bit of headway towards our GT1s.
Yeah, that was actually a very interesting thing. I did not know any of that, and you know, it gives me a little bit more respect, you know, for these older cars that, you know, that made motorsports what it is today. So I mean, I think that's pretty cool that, you know, how GT3s came about, and you know, it's those GT3 cars that we come to love and know, you know, almost all around the world. You know, some sort of series has GT3 cars, you know, in their series, and you know, as we see Robert Nash here trying to get to the back bumper of Ross Banfield, you know, they are just only a little bit away from catching up with our first GT3 or GT1 that's going to be a lap down. So how is that, you know, that slower class going to affect how these drivers battle and who will take advantage of it? That's one of the things that I absolutely love about this is, you know, you're going to catch the slower class. How are you going to use it to your advantage?
Well, this is the thing. You've now got multi-class, and this is what challenges drivers, because no longer is it all the same and go for it. I have to say, in the world of road racing, there is two types of drivers. You've got your single class drivers, and then you've got your multi-class drivers. In being in a prototype, you've got to have a different mindset of, okay, I'm going to go through the field here, but I've also got to pick my moment. Get too close to one of these GT1 cars that its bodywork is really, really great, but it does create a lot of dirty air coming off the back of it. You will get a lot of air wash. For the HPDs that rely on lots of downforce, they'll suddenly be buffeted left and right and start to have the suspension actually lift a little when you get nice and close to the cars, taking away some of that aero that you so badly rely on. So you really got to think about, what is the big plan here? How are you going to move forward? Not only to get around these cars, but also how to minimize the grip loss that you're going to have. Remember, these cars weigh 825 kilograms. They 1,800 pounds that they have to do it. Oh, big mistake for Bruce Roberts. He's able to keep it out of the wall, but now going to gently reverse. Those tires definitely going to feel it. And now heading towards pit lane. Let's quickly take a look at it. That's out through the final corner. There's a bump on the inside line. You've got to be so careful about. Down the gears, turns it in. The rear starts to really come out as he snapped it on the way through. And a little too aggressive.
He just spun it again.
Oh my heavens. Not the way you want to go. And for the likes of Bryce Roberts, he's just going down and down through the order. So Fusion Silver Americas not too happy with the Aston Martin at the moment and just trying to fight his way through. Remember, these are not the iRacing up to date that we have seen from the more modern counterparts and the contemporary, but we'll have to see how it all works out as they move on. So, with that being said, our HPDs, nice and light, 825 kilograms. Compared to the GT1 counterparts, that are running closer to 1.8 tons a shot. So each of the drivers need to keep that in mind, that these little light cars can't really take as much of a beating compared to the GT1. You can't really share paint as much as you would like, and you need to keep a very, very close eye. But other than the Aston Martins running the screaming V12s, we've got a whole bunch of V8s, including the HPDs running V8s. So they've got the same amount of power that the GT1s have. They're a little bit lighter, but the GT1's having a little bit more top end in a drag race battle. So down the back straight, it's a lot harder for these HPD to clear past the GT1s. And when you're fighting for position, the last thing you want to do is getting out-dragged by our top runners. So at the moment, leading out the HPD field, Ross Banfield, Robert Nash, and the likes of Austin Peterson. And then you've got Christian Chandler, Nathan Dowd, and Austin O'Neill that are running their way through. Remember, they're going to be scoring points. Doesn't matter what class you are in. So each of the drivers are looking to try and move forward for round 3 of the championship. And they need to keep a very, very close eye on what they're going to do. It's 2 hours of racing. It's easily to tire yourself out. And for the likes of Austin O'Neill, who's running 3rd in the GT1s, he's currently leading out the championship, overall championship, and the Pro Championship for the Major Series Americas division. He's got Jackson Wade on the back of him in the championship. Now, Jackson a little bit further down and unfortunately going to be feeling it. But Mark Stevenson and the likes of Wayne Hutchison, who are way, way out of position with those HPDs, on the same laps as our GT1s, which means next time as they go through the blue, they're not getting blue flags. They try and fight for track position. Mike, this is a difficult place to be in, especially when you are trying to push that little bit harder. But it also makes it rather difficult because the HPDs will be coming through at some point for the GT1s. Where do you open the gap to move forward?
Yeah, that's definitely the name of the game when it comes to, you know, this multi-class racing, is when do you want to start making your move knowing you have those faster cars coming? Do you want to wait until they open up the opportunity for you getting into a corner? Or do you want to play, you know, offensively now and try to get those positions? For me personally, I like to let those guys, you know, get by me, and then I'll use them. And, you know, I'll dive in where I can after they pass. You know, I've done that quite a few times, but I'm not necessarily a very aggressive driver either. So I won't, you know, lay back, or I mean, I'll lay back and wait, you know. But if a door opens, you know, hey, a door opens.
With the 2-hour race as well, we've got to consider who is running short fuel for the start and who is running long in this race, because that's where it comes in. You will be doing multiple stops during this race, but towards the end, it's a shorter stop. And when I talk about a shorter stop, you are going to be sitting with, I would say, about 13 laps that you as well, as the drivers are going to be trying to pick their moments. If we go back to the Intimidator series, where everyone thought, okay, we got a big plan here, let's try and keep moving forward. Others took the gamble of pitting. Next lap, they had the safety car, which completely nullified their chances of moving forward. These are little factors that are coming in, but the drivers are not only in a driver championship, they've also got a team championship running at the moment with Fusion Gold Americas leading out, with Sector 5 Racing in second, Dog Bear Bark holding on to third as they move on. Fortunately, a big mistake coming in from Caleb. He landed up in the dirt. And that brings on to the next point that I want to touch on. It is all about off tracks that come into play. Something we don't really get to talk about because that's the last thing you want is to know about off tracks. There's no DQ limit, so you can get the off tracks, but at 16 off tracks or 16 X's, if you get contact, it's 4. If you slide, it's 2. If you put a wheel on the dirt, it's 1. At 16, you got to drive through. And then 8 every time after that. So every 8 puts you through the pits. Every light contact that gets you a 4X, you do that twice, you get yourself a drive-through. And that will start to hammer in as well. The drivers are needing to consider their options. So, I mean, Mike, if you think about it, it's going to be a tough one out there. We have got report that Garen Batten is into the pits. So he is getting himself sorted out, going for a tire change as well on his HPD, and does have a little bit of minor damage to the nose, and will be getting that sorted out during the pit stop. If it's not a lot, just get yourself done, dust it, put some new tires on and get going.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, Garen, you know, he ran the Euro race, and he was one of the fastest drivers out there until Michael Hofledason. He came in and just absolutely stole the show away from Garen. So I know Garen's coming into the Americas here, and he's going to try to do what he can to put his name back on top. But as of right now, Robert Nash and Ross Banfield, they are going to be tough to beat.
Cannot count out the rest of the field. Likes of down in 15th and 14th, you've got Joseph Herman and Jason McSpearin who are fighting it out. They're also trying to clear past a lot of the GT1 traffic. And this is where, if you're in the GT1 cars, you don't want to compromise you're going to be facing a lot more of understeer. You want these high aero cars to just get round you as quick as possible. The main thing that you want to do, hold your racing line, be predictable, and you want them to clear as quick as possible. The more that they shove you offline, the closer you're in for trouble. But for our HPDs that are currently racing with the likes of Joseph, Jason, and we've got Jason Lottridge further up the road, the three of them are battling out for position. The last thing that any of them want to have is getting locked in behind one of the GT1 cars, or even one of our HPDs that are further down the order that will create that concertina, get boxed in, and have no way of fighting the competition, trying to come from the back and getting their way around. So some tough racing out there, and a bit of a difficult situation as we do see Jason McPherson take the inside line very late on the brakes to try and get it all together, nearly up on front, but he is not letting go of Lottridge ahead of him. And you've got Joseph, who just bided his time, and he's already made up that distance to try and close up. Right behind him, they've got the likes of Chris Yereto, hoping to stay in the mix. So a little bit of a fight at the back, but at the sharp end of the field, Banfield all over Nash, and is making dead sure that he wants to take that top spot back. After clearing past some of the GT1s, Ross Banfield in the slipstream, pulling himself along, sees the fight in the GT1 class and looking to capitalize at the moment. Tries to go out wide, both drivers flirting with the track fringes at the moment, really pushing these HPDs, but now got to play for the leader behind three of our GT1 cars that are running line astern, hoping to keep their positions. It's now forcing our HPDs to go down the inside, and it's going to be Nash who sends it down the inside, gets his nose chopped off, but unfortunately for Banfield, it's not as easy. He's taking a more cautious approach, but just losing so much time at the moment.
Yeah, it definitely expect Banfield to definitely start to reel Nash back in. Once they get around these GT1 cars, you know, Banfield, he's pretty quick. I think he ran the fastest lap you know, between the two the last couple of laps. So as you can see here, you know, Banfield, he's quick, and right here he's gaining back on Nash.
And don't take that away, because further up the road from our leaders of the HPD, they're going to be up to the leaders of our GT1, Christian Chandler, Nathan Dowd, and Austin O'Neill running just ahead of our fighting duo in the HPD, and they don't want to lose time. You've managed to get round the likes of Eric Della Riva, Trevor Vorosky, Brenton Foster, but now you've got to get past the front fighting three, who are not going to be backing down and are going to be holding the line as much as possible. It's going to be a tough time for our leaders in both classes, both wanting the same piece of ground. And immediately take a look at Robert Nash, goes on the attack, trying to clear both cars as quick as he can. Up on the inside of Nathan Dowd, manages to swing on by. That opened the door for Austin O'Neill to go and take the dive. It's side by side between the two. And now Banfield get into the middle, forcing them wide. Austin unfortunately got worse off there and now has to try and make up that little bit of space.
Yeah, but now as they are approaching the race leader in the GT1s of Christian Challenger, you know, that kind of slowed up Nash just a little bit to allow Banfield to get back into his rhythm here. And now it's going to be interesting to see how quick Banfield can get around the GT1 leader.
All making their way around the circuit. We've got note that Wayne Hutchison, unfortunately, running into mechanical problems, so he disconnected, reconnects, trying to keep himself going as well. So we do have a couple of drivers starting to run into early mechanical problems from just a variety of issues with disconnects and trying to get themselves going. Everyone looking here as they carry on the race. That you want is to be caught out. A little bit further back in our GT field, our Trevor Vorosky, who holds 5th in class. He's got Brenton Foster on the back of him, and Kevin Hill trying to also close up the gap between them. So Brenton Foster has got Trevor Vorosky a little bit further up, and then you've got Eric Della Riva, who leads out the trio, getting a little bit wide, hoping to try and hold the line. Trevor goes out wide, trying to catch up and get into the momentum. But they're also keeping a very close eye on the relatives at the moment. The HPD field further down the grid will be also wanting to cycle their way through, and this can either play into your favor or it's going to hurt you during the course of the race, because you had the fast cars come through. Now you got the drivers that are a little bit more nervous to get around you at the moment and can compromise the time. For Trevor Vorosky, he's hoping to score as many points as possible for his championship, and now has to just be so cautious as he really tries to go on the attack of Eric. Couldn't quite get it done, managing to actually foul up one of the HPDs. As they trying to really dial up the wick, they're trying to move forward through this race. The question is, who is going to stay at the top? We've only had 30 minutes worth of racing at the moment, another hour and a half to go, and you can already see mistakes starting to creep in from a number of drivers. Number of meatball flags coming out, that is mechanical flags. That's for massive damage to the cars. People already using their fast repair and now having to just take a more cautious approach, not to use too much. And will have to really think about their strategies during the course of this race. But Mike, it has been a tough time indeed for drivers to really see what they can do.
Yeah, definitely. These drivers, you know, just 31 minutes into this race, you know, and some of these drivers are already starting to have a little issues, you know, trying to keep up with their competitors thanks to the other class that's on track with them. So it's definitely going to be a big mental game from this point on, this point out. So Trevor Varvasky, you know, he's doing a great job back here, currently in that 5th spot. You know, he's doing great. You know, Eric Della Riva, he was able to pull away a little bit, but now he's got another HPD coming. So it's going to be very interesting to see, you know, how much that's going to slow up Eric once that HPD gets around him.
We also take a look, fastest lap of the race, and it is our leader that managed to set a 148.6 on his last lap for the likes of our GT1s. They're sitting within the 156 and moving forward, but we're already starting to get drivers to one another. I had likes of Dick Mueller busy going and notifying, saying, I don't know quite what you want for the HPDs, trying to hunt their way through the field. And you can really start to get an understanding on the radio comms. Drivers trying to communicate, trying to work out where they need to be, and also just keeping an eye on the competition, not wanting to get too fouled up. Wayne Hudson, who is down in 30th position, is getting lapped by his own class as he's trying to make his way back through the field. Unfortunately, 12 positions down from where he started, and after a disconnect, having to reconnect back in, he's on the back foot, he's laps down, and now just needs to keep the momentum forward. It's 2 hours worth of racing, anything can happen, and like what we saw at the Intimidator series, like what we saw with the TCRs early on this year, from round 1 to round 2, it has been keep an eye. If you see the green, you've got to see the checkered. You don't know what's going to happen. Ryan Worley also going and just notifying drivers of where people can get past. Just trying to say, rather go on the straights instead of on the corners. Otherwise, we're losing too much time. And also just trying to work with both classes. So with that being said, a massive welcome to everyone in the virtual grandstands. As we got fights right the way through here at the Major Series 33 minutes ago. And Trevor Varosky definitely trying everything he can at the moment, fighting out with Eric Della Riva. They've got the HPDs on the back of him, but it's Trevor that manages to get the advantage, carries the momentum. Eric down. Now needs to keep the pressure on, see where he can go. Brenton Foster hoping to keep within the toe. Now has the HPDs trying to mob him, and you can see constantly looking for the inside line. There's no room for each of the classes around. The moment the HPDs have secured a line, it takes it away from you. You've got to try and keep into the toe of the competition. The last thing that's happening is you now compromising yourself. You want to clear past, you want to get going, and you want the HPDs to commit to the line, get round you, and get out the way. You're losing time. It's one thing about being in the slower cars where you've also got to focus on the rearview mirror, but you've got to focus on the race ahead. I always say it's harder to be in the slower car, the slower class versus the faster class, because you've got so much more to worry about. You got a big lumbering piece of machinery versus these prototypes that are a lot more nimble through the corners, Mike.
Yeah, definitely. As we're taking a look here, sorry, just realized I forgot to reshare, but Sebastian Jackson getting loose, heading onto the long straight here.
Unfortunately, starting to feel it, but the tires are getting hot because it's getting more and more in terms of temperature. And that's another factor we didn't talk about, because these cars don't like having high temperatures. Remember, they're on the older tire models, so every spin that you get goes and heats these tires through the roof, and you're going to have to then take two laps of slow driving to kind of bring yourself back into it. You can't just go flat on the gas and go. You got to now just wait and bring the tires back in after having a difficult time. I mean, these are little factors you don't get to know until you've driven these older cars, but it also brings in a different skill that the drivers had to learn. We've had TCR cars, front wheel drive, that when you stand on the gas, they straighten up, but they do chew through those fronts. You then have the Intimidator, where you had to try and do tire and fuel management working with the competition. The only way you're moving is working with the competition. Now, multi-class action, where you have to play a little bit of a balancing game with one another. Who's going to be pushing harder, who you're going to work with, and where this pit strategy is coming in. We've seen a couple of pit stops for the drivers. However, it's now who can keep the momentum to go that little bit longer. The GT1s do have a much bigger tank, and they can go that little bit longer, especially to move forward. Question is, how far can they go? It's 40 degrees Celsius track temperature. It's 25 degrees air temperature. So it is blisteringly hot out on the circuit, and the drivers are now starting to feel it as the race gets going. So Mike, lots and lots to consider during this race and how to move forward through it all. I mean, these are some tough times, but the drivers showing off what they can do. We do have a couple of cars pulling in the pits, like likes of Lionel Callisto, who is in pit lane getting himself sorted out. A couple of drivers reporting that they're starting to pick up a little bit of damage as they're trying to clear through the field, or have the likes of the HPDs getting past the GT1s. Little nicks starting to happen, and little mistakes as well. So as we keep an eye on the rest of the field, we got Peterson in third place and a little bit on no man's land. Nash caught right onto the back of Banfield in the HPD class, hoping to go back for that first place, see if he can do it. Wanting to go for the inside line, but also take a look at how split the field is. There's HPDs and GT1s all over the circuit to one another, and each of them starting to feel the pain because there is no room to breathe. So our leaders
All right, everybody, give us just a moment here. I am having difficulties with the iRacing server at the moment. I had to close out of the sim, and we're going to come back here in just a couple moments. I do deeply apologize, but just stand by, and we'll be back here in just a very quick couple minutes.
And we are back. We are back with racing action. We've got Christian currently sitting in 16th position, trying to carve his through, catching up to our leader, Christian, in the GT1 class, trying to hunt his way through. Just behind now, Neil continuing to push forward. A little bit further back, we've got Kevin Hill in 28th overall. The Aston Martins really showing what they can do in power here, but battling to try and catch up to the Chevs. Jason Lottridge in 14th position, hunting his way down. But Ross Banfield leads out the race with Robert Nash running right behind him, trying to see if he can close the distance. Peterson holding on to third place. He's up one place from where he started. But I also want to bring up about likes of Ryan Worley and also Sebastian Jackson, who have been climbing up through the ranks. Sebastian Jackson is up 10 places from where he started, and Matthew Brom, who currently sits 10 positions up from where he started. So we're starting to see these cars all trying to figure out what is the big plan here, gaining a few places, but they're starting to pick up those off tracks and starting to pick up those incidents. Remember, 16 is a drive through, and every 8 after that starts to go and take the effect. We haven't even hit the hour mark, and we're starting to see drivers feeling the pressure and taking the impact. Sebastian Jackson into pit lane to go and get his fuel stop done and dusted and get back out onto the circuit. Is it going to be a tire change? But dropping out of the top 10, now I do think he's going to be taking a deep breath after a very, very hard fought fight through the GT1 field.
Yeah, now you got to remember, these cars do not change tires while they are fueling these cars for safety reasons. So they're going to fuel up that car first, and then you're going to throw them up on the jack. So they're usually down in the pits for roughly just about 70 seconds or so. But then he will pull out once he gets done with his tires.
Now, I do want to point out that the HPDs are sitting with an 80-litre tank. For those that aren't too sure, these were originally one of the main prototypes you had on the iRacing. We're just getting word that the likes of Erin Joseph Field will be pulling into pit. So Jonesy Field will be into pit lane, just communicating well to the drivers. But the HPDs sit with 80-litre tanks. You wouldn't think that's much. Well, the Dallara P217 that we use as an LMP2 car here in the iRacing service sits with a 90-litre tank. So these cars are a little bit smaller, utilizing the V8s, which get rather thirsty. However, when you look at your GT1s, they are sitting with 100+ litre tanks. So they're able to really stretch it out and really just going. The main thing that starts to fall off on the GT1's cars is the tires. You start to chew through your tires more than your fuel. You have to kind of balance it up. You can really fill it up to the brim, but with a big heavy belly, these cars will understeer. They'll start to eat through those tires, forcing you to think a little bit more of what your plan is going to be and how far you're willing to go. Also, what your setup allows. If you go and put too much fuel in, you've added all that weight. Does your setup allow enough clearance to move through the field, or is it going to be a nightmare affair? So, Mike, with that being said, pit strategies being so critical here in the world of multi-class racing, because that also gets you where you're coming out. As we see Richard McClure, unfortunately, a bit of a tank slap of the rears, bit of an impact there. He's able to rejoin, but straight into a mob with not much breathing room.
Yeah, that's definitely something that, you know, these drivers want to be careful of, you know, when they are trying to rejoin, you know, from a little spin like that, you know, because if they're not paying close attention, you know, they could come out and hit somebody. So they've always got to pay attention to that.
It's all about the rejoins. It's all about what you can do. And drivers are already starting to feel it with 48 minutes of this race completed. Still lots and lots of time to make up positions. However, it is so difficult for drivers to be moving forward. There's not a lot of breathing room out there. You really got to start considering what is the options that you can take to move forward. How far are you willing to go? But also, what is the rest of the field doing? As we're starting to see some big pit stops coming in. Brenton Foster is in the pit. Eric Dahlia is in the pit. Bradley Harley, Craven Heaton, likes of Bryce Roberts. Everyone's starting to get their major planned pit stop done and dusted. Our GT1s in particular diving into the pits and starting to feel it as well. Take a look on board with our Aston Martins. Nick Hunt going and getting himself sorted. Now, I've got to ask for everyone out there in the virtual grandstand and to yourself, Mike, if you had to pick one of the cars to go driving between our beautiful GT1s and our amazing HPDs, what would be the ones that you sit back and go, yep, that's what I want to race. That's where I want to be.
So that's actually a very good question. The first time I ever drove a HPD was when we were running the Le Mans 24. That was my first time ever buying the car, turning laps in it, and I absolutely fell in love with that car after beating it up a little bit, and then I finally got used to it. Really fun car to drive. Then I said, you know what? Let me go grab the Corvette. Total different beast. Total different power. I fell in love with that Corvette. If I had to choose between the two, I'm going to split it right down the middle, put both of them together. The front end is going to be an HPD, the back end is going to be a Corvette, and I'm going out.
Fair enough.
These cars are just so much fun, man. You know, and just if you guys haven't, buy one of these things, take it out in a test drive. You guys, it's so much fun, these cars. You will not be disappointed.
The HPD, if I remember, is a legacy car, so it is far more affordable to drive. But
yes,
the GT1s are always a bit of fun to see out on circuit. Then you've got the Ford GT, which runs a 2-spec car, and you get to have a bit of a go with those absolute monsters as well. That being said, though, pit stops come in and have happened as Banfield pulls into the pits from the lead of the race. He's going to keep an eye on David Baker in second place for our HPDs and Travis Walling in third place. Christian Abbott has made up a few positions after his chaotic start and will be keeping a very close eye on the field as well. Christian Chandler, no change of place at the moment in the GT1s. He's opened up quite a gap to Nathan Dowden and Austin O'Neill, who were fighting earlier on. Brenton Foster in fourth place with Trevor Vorosky in fifth place of our GT1s. 15 positions up from where he started during the course of this race. So we've started to see a little bit of a climb. Drivers moving through the order. Everyone trying to figure out. Ross Banfield, David Baker into the pits. Will Travis Walling be the next one to dive into pit lane? Yes, he is. But not gonna be Christian Abbott, as he will be charging his way through. And Christian Abbott takes over the lead of the race in both the HPD and overall.
Yeah, you got to remember, Abbott, on the first lap, he did end up getting a meatball, so he had to come in and use up his fast repair, you know, so he could probably stay out maybe an extra lap or two over everybody else. So depending on how these GT1 cars will act around him, he may be quick enough to come out in front of these guys.
Christian Abbott hoping to really stomp his name into the history books here at the Major Series. Hasn't been the easiest run for him at the moment, having to really think about is the big move forward at the moment. And that does bring me into how our championship is looking. Because within our top 10, Abbott's not there. It's also Niels, Jackson Wade, Trevor Vorosky, Derek Love, Ryan Steele, Dallas Patuka, Nathan Dowd, Eric Riva, and Christian Chandler in ninth, Chris Lieto. So for Abbott, it's all about making a big impact right now to move forward. He's unfortunately unable to get any wins or any top fives, and he is lying in 27th overall in terms of championship. So he is way down from where he wanted to be.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, this is going to be my question to you now. You know, you asked strategy. Now, I'm going to throw strategy your way. You do got to come down pit road. You know you are going to be quite a few off, you know, from your fellow competitors. Do you come in for just fuel and pray that you get a, you know, that caution that may or may not come out so that you can come back down and get tires at that point? What would you do?
I would never bank on a caution. I would rather focus on what I need to do. So, for like Christian Abbott at the moment, he is saving fuel and tires where he can. A little bit of lift off, coasting into corners, not as aggressive on the brakes, not as aggressive in turn-in. Rather try and save the tires as much as you can. These cars can double stint if you drive nicely. And if it is a very abrasive circuit, but if you take it easy, you can double stint the tires. It will get a little bit on the wild side, but it will help you out to go that little bit more. The question is he saving enough? The easiest way, in car, look at the steering angle. The more that he's starting to really having to crank that steering wheel through the corners, the more he's putting one more friction into those fronts and starts to eat them out. You'll get that understeer creeping in more and more, and it basically lands up as a domino effect. The more understeer you get, the more drivers naturally want to turn, and that then impacts it. What you actually need to have is when you start to build up understeer, you need to bring the steering back a little bit, because now you're scrubbing the tires too hard. So you just have to try and open the steering, get yourself sorted, slow it down through the corner. So I wouldn't be going for flat out lap times. I'd be focusing on going that little bit further. So he's pulled into the pit. He's now out of sequence, which is not necessarily a bad thing either, because now he can focus on getting the car across the line. How is he going to do that? The tires in consideration. Also, we saw a little bit earlier, when the pits were so busy, it's so easy to miss your box. And then you're getting released into traffic with cold tires, cold and a full belly, and trying to work your way through. I think being off strategy is the better one. And yes, the contact affected him. Now there's an opportunity to move forward.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, it's going to be very interesting to see how it all works here. And, yeah, he's going to go ahead and take those tires. So that will turn the race back over to Robert Nash.
Who is 3 seconds up the road from Banfield. Batten up into third place with Peterson and Warley chasing him down. Each of the drivers now trying to figure out what is the plan. There's not a single part of this circuit that you are going to be racing alone. You will always be sitting with drivers around you, trying to get past GT1s, trying to move forward with HPDs out of position, and we'll be focusing on. Wade Hutchison is only now managed to get himself ahead of all the GT1s and is 1 lap down on Mark Stevenson, who currently holds second last position at the moment. He's the 20th overall. I mean, these are little factors you have to really think about of how long your strategy is. Never bank on a safety car. Safety car is either something that works in your favor, or as we saw with the Intimidator in round 2, where majority of the field got caught out pitting the lap before. So with that being said, Mike, it is an interesting race indeed. And at the moment, drivers are running it. HPD is Robert Nash in first place. Ross Banfield followed by Garen Batten. Austin Peterson, Christian Abbott down in 5th. Ryan Worley, Brian Zinn, Shane Vicari, Lionel Callisto, Sebastian Jackson, Matthew Bum, along with David Baker, Caleb Ugler, Travis Warling, Joseph Homan, along with Richard McClure, Chris Yeto down in 17th position, Jason Lottridge, Jason McSpearin, Wayne Hutchison, Mark Stevenson rounds out the pack. And going into our GT1, it's Christian Chandler, followed by Nathan Dowd, Austin O'Neill, Foster, Trevor Roski, Eric Riva, Dallas Patuka, along with Kevin Hill, Bradley Harley, Evan Josenfield, along with Dick Miller, Brett Picari, Kevin Heaton, along with Ryan Steedy, Brian Barnes, David Wilson, Bruce Roberts, Daniel Howard, Ulrich Smith, Nick Khan, along with Lindsay Swanby, round out the pack. Unfortunately, Lindsay down the order and really not able to see it through to the end. But each of the drivers trying to get that a little bit further up in the road. I was actually having a chat to the drivers prior to the event, because there was a lot of drivers aiming to go in GT1 as a class. However, it started becoming the conversation of cars are a little harder to drive, and thinking about a 2-hour race, what they need to do to score points, they would rather go and leave the GT1s, go into the HP, a bit easier and a bit more forgiving in their driving style to last the 2 hours.
Shane Vicari and Sebastian Jackson got into it here, heading, I think this is one of the right-handers, and they both end up spinning just a little bit, but they were both able to continue with no harm done.
And that will be a 4x as well added just to go and impact them. And remember, they're allowed up to 16 incident points before their first drive-through, and 8 after that go and move them forward. As we do have a fight starting to build up between the likes of Abbott and Baker for 11th and 12th position. 0.2 of a second. Vorosky and Foster also running close. So we see those little battles as drivers are finding each other on circuit. But how's this for a bit of a show, as now the GT1 comes into play, and Abbott around the outside. Can he make it stick? He's now caught behind the GT1, really putting the hammer down, chops off the nose of Baker, who has to give that little bit of room. Baker has now got a bit of a problem as Walling's on the back of him, trying to see where he can get on by. The trio starting to build up. And for Walling, this is just a stunning state of affairs to move forward through the race. So a tough time out there. Abbott capitalized with the back marker and now needs to move forward with the likes of Baker and Walling keeping each other busy and filling up the mirrors at the moment. For Abbott, it is go time at the moment for a driver that is completely out of sequence to the rest of his class. Mike, we're getting these little fights, but take a look at some of our GT1 cars landing up, going wide, the noses taking a bit of an impact, and the only way that starts to happen is you managing to rear end some of the cars, and you're starting to feel that little bit of impact. That front aero downforce that you're relying on starting to fade away. For our HPDs, they'll be starting to feel it on as well. Fun fact about the HPDs, you can actually damage the floor on these cars, and that will take a lot of that downforce really had completely out of it. So you also got to be very, very careful not to strike those curbs as hard as you would like, because you will end up breaking the floor. Walling managing to get past the likes of Baker on the inside, but now it's Abbott to move forward. Trevor Vorosky, unfortunately, landing up into the weeds in the Momo colors, and now having to rejoin through the field. Let's quickly take a look at this. And Brian Zinn stuck on the outside, manages to break very, very late. Trevor, contact between the two. And, oh man, it all just went out of shape with each of the cars, and that is going to be a problem. And I think Brian's going to be starting to feel a little bit of pain on that rear right suspension.
Yeah, definitely very unfortunate there, as that was a really good battle between Vorosky and Zinn. You know, so definitely hate to see all that happen, and now all Vorosky can do is just get his head back down and start making his way back towards the front, as I am showing a couple black flags for Foster and Vorosky, possibly for incident points. Let's see what will happen here as he comes down.
It's unfortunately both cars going and getting caught out. Now, I'm listening to radio comms as well, where there's a bit of a chat going on between the drivers. Vorosky not very happy with at the moment, and Brian Zinn as well having a bit of a chat, but race control jumping in and saying, guys, focus on the race, keep moving forward. But for Vorosky, who's fighting out for the championship, this is a nightmare state of affairs as he's thrown even further down the order yet again.
Yeah, definitely not what Vorosky needed here, you know, in round 3. But, I mean, luckily, you know, again, this is only round 3, and I believe we do have 11 rounds, and we do have, I believe you mentioned earlier, we do have one drop week. So, or I should say drop race. So, even, you know, if Vorosky, you know, doesn't do too well here at Sebring, he's got the remainder of the season to come back very strong and, you know, possibly contend for a championship.
That's it. It's all about just keeping in it as far as you can go. We also have stewarding teams that will be keeping an eye on the run. Now, we do have a bit of supporters out in the virtual grandstands, and I've seen a couple of flags kicking around. The Dog Bear team coming out in a bit of force to support their drivers. We've got Dallas Patuka and Kevin Hill that are running very close to one another, trying to move forward, with Hill gaining a little bit of time, but unfortunately, every time makes that little bit of distance, loses out trying to deal with the HPDs, as we see Travis is in 11th position onto the back of Abbott. Baker trying to catch up to Bomb a little bit further up the road. But for Travis Walling, it's all about applying that pressure constantly. See where you can make up a bit of time. 2 positions down from where he started. Christian Abbott down 5 positions from where he started. So you talk about making up a little bit of time and see where they go. But I'm getting word that our stewards are looking into that contact we saw earlier with the likes of Vorosky, and now getting caught into a bit of a problem. So stewards are looking into the incidents, and that means possible penalties coming into play for drivers. Well, that's something we haven't spoken about here at the majors. We do have stewards working in the background that can also change the outcome of this race, but also bring out the wooden spoon.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, talking about our stewards, you know, this is a great opportunity to do a plug-in here. If you guys do need any racing stewards for your racing events, you can always head over to simracingstewards.com. And this is something that the Major Series has created amongst, you know, our race control here. You know, so if you do need race control, you know, you sign up, name the price that you're looking for, and we'll pick and choose what we can do, what we can't do. And let me tell you what, if you need really great race control, you know, we got really good deals. So simracingstewards.com, you know, you can't get any better than that.
And that being said, also want to touch onto it. If you are interested in stewarding and getting involved with the world of stewarding, definitely head over. You can join up as well to be part of the entire stewarding team. Once again, it is keeping things fast, fair, and running, but it also means that your stewarding needs are sorted out, and there isn't always that question of, well, it's getting stewarded by the other team. It's all fair, it's all down the line, and you are making dead sure that you are covered for your league racing. And Assetto Corsa Competizione, iRacing, and so much more being brought in. But also, if you're wanting to get involved with it as well, there's a brilliant opportunity to move forward. And all the stewards go through a vetting process before they can take on your league. So you're not going to get a brand spanking new person. You're going to have some experience calling it down the line as it should be. Now with that being said, we got Walling and Abbott chasing each other down, trying to maneuver their way through. Travis Walling trying everything he can at the moment to keep within the likes of Christian Abbott, but take a look, every time he gets close, that understeer starts to creep in, and that is what we call aero wash coming into effect as he loses that pressure off the nose and on the rear. But now as the car ahead of him starts to lean a little bit to the left or right, it's taking pressure off one side and applying pressure on another, which just upsets the cars and makes it difficult. This is Bryce Roberts in the Aston Martin, in through the final corner, swings it on by. Oh man, way he was able to save it, but way too quick, and just not enough mechanical and aero grip to keep him in check. Unfortunately, now has to just take a little bit of a slower pace to cool those tires down, get himself back into check, and move his way forward. So Mike, as the race goes on, hour and 10 minutes racing complete, and we've got 50 minutes left. Drivers all over the show, And at the top of the log in both classes is not the same as what we see in the championship. We're starting to see a different evolution coming in, where drivers are moving up, more comfortable with the cars, and this allows them to move up in the championship as well. And it also gives us a little bit of a chance. This is split 1, folks. We do have a second split running at the same time. So if you're in split 1, you're going to be scoring more points than the cars in split 2. So you really want to qualify for split 1 and be able to race with the drivers. In split 2, however, it's still fierce competitive racing. And that's one thing I've got to say, Major, is it doesn't matter on which level you are. Whether you're a veteran, you're super quick, or you're more of a hobbyist, there's always a home for you to go racing and fighting out for a championship in 3 different driver classes as well.
Yeah, I just want to point out here in Baton, he has made his way back down pit road. He's cutting it pretty close to possibly running out on the final lap. If we don't see a caution later on in this race. So this may make his race or break it. So this is going to be very interesting to see here, as we only have 49 minutes left here in the race.
Trying everything you can. Now this is where you switch your mode from go aggressive driving to a little bit of lift and coast. Especially the best place is actually into turn 1, as we see Nathan Dowd visiting the grass, and that is now into 3rd place in the GT1. Let's quickly take a look at this. Busy with the HPDs, put on the inside line, over the curb, a little bit rough, and oh, might have been a bit of netcode contact. So here we go, all looking fine. See him strike the curb a little bit, and oh nope, that was contact. And that unfortunately is what happens when you're trying to make your way through the S's there. Side by side, you're in for a world of hurt unless there is room. It actually tightens up quite a bit through there, and you got to be so careful not to be caught out. That is our turn 3, turn 4, turn 5, where you just got to try and focus on hitting the entrances just right. It goes and tightens up on you before you hit towards the big bend, which is our turn 6, to get yourself going down the straight front. So unfortunately, turn 3, turn 4 was pretty much game, set, match for him, and now has to try and figure out where he goes. As we keep an eye through Sunset Bend, Travis Walling up into 9th place, trying to catch up to Abbott, but Peterson still holds the top of the log for our HP, trying to see where he can go, move forward. It's Bamfield who is at the top of the log at the moment, trying to keep his way towards the top. Robert Ash, Bamfield, Austin Peterson hold the top 3, along with Christian Chandler, Orsa O'Neill, and Nathan Dowd hold the top 3 in our GT1 class. Drivers starting to feel the pressure and see where it's all going to work out. Around 17 corners, and once again, this 6-kilometer circuit that really is quick for our drivers to deal with. A mixture of tar and concrete where they bounce around on one another, and really having to try and figure out what is going to be the best part. The one thing I can say about Sebring, especially as you move into more of the concrete side of it, you actually lose a lot of grip out on the circuit. Added to that, where there's just a huge amount of heat that's actually on the circuit as well. So at the moment, it's 26 degrees of air temperature. We're looking at 40 degrees out on the tar. Tires starting to feel it. The weather looking good, but it's in pure sunshine. There's no cloud cover to help cool things down, and the drivers are still going to be feeling it more and more as the race continues. In terms of sim time, it's 4:30 in the afternoon in the sim, and drivers are now trying to figure out what they need to do to get these cars to the end, and considering what their final stops are going to look like. Have you saved enough? Did you go short at the start? Did you go long at the start to ensure that you keep going? And already cars are looking at pit lane thinking, okay, if I get stops done now, where can I make up time? As our drivers keeping going, Nash keeping it a very easy one. The Mega Racing hasn't had the busiest of races, got out of the fight early on, and now just focusing on ticking those laps by, focusing on the rhythm, and quite consistent in times as well. Nash is just focusing on keeping a target time, keep it going, and also, while caught up behind the GT1s, is giving it a little bit of a lift through some of the corners to just save that little bit of fuel. So with that being said, what do you think is going to be the big plan here? Because Ross Bamfield into the pits. We do know that it's 80 litres put into the cars, but with just over 40 minutes left in this race, who do you think has got this one, as we see the likes of Agler sitting with a drive-through penalty in 19th, and that is incident limits. And we've so far seen, well, about 3 of them now coming in and unfortunately getting drivers caught up.
Yeah, definitely very unfortunate there for Agler, in that 404 machine for incident points. So, something that these drivers really need to be paying attention to.
Well, fun little fact for everyone out there. When we talk about fuel that these cars use, what do you think they use? Avgas, normal pump for our GT1s?
For our GT1s, I would probably have to say they use some sort of ethanol, I'm assuming. But of course, I could possibly be wrong on this one.
Well, you're dead right. They use E85 ethanol because during the course of the time, there wasn't too much concern about the fumes that come out. Remember, these cars were built at a time where it wasn't too much of a worry about their environmental side of things. So use whatever's going to give you the best bang and make the biggest bang to move forward through the race. However, as time has gone on, everyone starts to look at something a little bit different. While our HPDs, on the other hand, use octane with 10% ethanol, not just straight ethanol. That just goes and changes things up. It also shows the time period, as we do see Matthew pointing the wrong way around, and that is an HPD, unfortunately getting squashed. So the Fusion team not going to be happy on that one. Fortunately, all going wrong. And the rear just coming out on the curb. Big impact, suspension damage. And that, unfortunately, is a car needing to go into the pits. And hopefully hasn't used his fast repair. And will hopefully be able to get that car out. But it's still a tow time that is around. And you can see that meatball flag, as we call it. It's also the mechanical flag. Black flag with orange dots on it is you've got a problem. You can't continue on the race. You need to get that repaired. Once that dreaded flag comes up, man, oh man, your heart sinks to your stomach.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely one of those unfortunate things that you definitely don't want to happen because, the tow time around here, I believe, is just a little bit upwards of 2.5 minutes, depending on where you do tow from. So, since he was near closer to the pit entry, he may only be sitting down there for maybe just about 2 minutes before he can get service started on fixing that fast repair.
And he will have to then try and fight his way through the GT1 field. 2 retirements thus far. We got Nick Khan, unfortunately, early on. Swami, unfortunately, out of the race thus far. And it does look like we managed to get our HPD back onto the circuit. But, gotta say, drivers still giving it that absolute all till the very, very end. No one wanting to back down. No one wanting to lose time. Everyone concentrating on what they need to do to see these cars through to the very, very bitter end at the moment. But also, pit stops starting to become a real look for those drivers as they try their luck. A quick flash of the lights coming from our leader, Christian Chandler, in the GT1, notifying he wasn't quite keen on the HPDs going and snapping around him and just letting it be known, hey, listen, you've got to give me a little bit of room here. We're working together on the same piece of time. The last thing he wants is getting caught up in an accident. He's kept it clean thus far, but doesn't want to land up losing this first place. This is going to help out his championship hopes at the moment, because remember, he's 9th in the championship at the moment and wants to try and claw his way through. This is likes of Richard McClare. Unfortunately, contact.
Catch your gear and go. There he goes.
Catch a gear and there we go. But in turn, a protest coming up for the stewards to take a look at it and see what it's going through.
I just wanted to come back here to Challenger. You know, he's absolutely wicked fast here today. Austin O'Neill, I thought he was definitely going to be the guy to beat today, especially with his performance during the Euro. But let me tell you what, Christian, he's coming out here and just absolutely annihilated the GT1 field. He's opened up to just about 16.5 seconds on, O'Neill. So as long as everything keeps going Christian's way, I think he's going to be definitely the one we're looking at the end of this race in just over 45 minutes. I'm sorry, in just under 35 minutes.
Oh, that is true. Just a fun little fact, Ross Bamfield was that contact that we saw a little bit earlier. But just some of the interesting chats coming in the world of sim racing is you do have tear-offs on these cars, which you land up getting it pulled off. And we've got drivers going and saying, sorry, I didn't mean to flash. I'm trying to get the tear off my visor, especially in the HPDs. They can have tear offs on the visor. As you can see, a little bit of dirt building up. But some drivers tend to have that a little bit too close to the flashing lights button and having to apologize.
Yep, that's a good one right there. As we run on board here with Holman, you see all those little black streaks right here on your screen. No, that's not, our camera. This is the visor of the driver. So this is what our drivers see. And let me tell you what, if you don't, use that tear off, things get dark pretty quick.
Also tends to distract you of note. The moment I seem to be a little bit more comfortable. Joseph will be trying to drive his way through it. But with the tear-offs, you don't want to go through a corner. You want to keep it on the straight so you just get a bit of a clear vision before your braking marker. So down the back straight where you now, it's going to be absolutely perfect. Get that tear-off and on the main start-finish line. Get the tear-off off and carry on. For our tin tops, however, you can only get the tear-off done once you pull into the pits. And let me tell you, nothing is more irritating than you have a speck caught onto the windshield of the car and it's slightly off at an angle. The moment someone points it out to you, you will never unsee it. It's so difficult to block. And as we take a look on board, you can see just to the right-hand side, before the windscreen wiper, there's a little speck right there. You point that out to a driver, they are going to notice it lap after lap after lap. And this is where the difference between your pro drivers tend to work through. They phase out everything to move forward. Now, on board, also take a look at how rudimentary these. You've got just a simple rev gauge, gears, and that's about that. As we jump on board the Aston Martin, how much work Hill is having to really put in, feeding the steering wheel through, not wanting to just crank it and just get it going. There's a lot of finesse as you keep your foot on the throttle and have to deal with the screaming, beautiful V12 of the Aston Martin or the supercharged V8 in the Chev. But you just can't push it too hard. The moment you go a little bit berserk, you're going to get caught out. So that being said, Mike, we are getting closer and closer towards the end. 33 minutes and a half remaining. Drivers starting to feel the impact, starting to talk to one another, saying arms are getting tired, legs are getting tired, trying to actually land up working with one another to move forward, giving up the fight at the moment, but just focusing on, right, let's pull each other along here. I need to try and get it through to the end, but at the same time, you know they're going to be utilizing it to save a little bit of fuel where they can, to minimize that last stop that possibly is going to happen within the final 15 minutes of this race. So as we take a look, this is a battle for the GT1 lead. Austin O'Neill and Nathan Dowd doing everything they can to keep it all together. These two have been keeping a lot of pressure right through the race. When Chandler pulled into the pits, he releases these two that have been fighting for second and third, now trying to keep each other busy and running line astern. Also Neil making that car as wide as possible, seeing where it's going to work out for him, but he is battling tooth and nail with Nathan, trying to get a little bit better on the brakes. The Sector 5 Racing not backing down from the fight and utilizing every little power. You can also see his lines are a lot tighter compared to the competition. He's really focusing on trying to get as much exit drive as possible. However, doesn't really have the torque in through coming out of the corners, and that is how they've set the gearbox in these cars. So when we talk about gearboxes in GT3, you've got a choice of FIA spec, which is all set out, or you've got your IMSA spec. With the GT1s, how's this for a bit of fun and require you to really think a bit more? You can actually set what your first gear, your second gear, right the way to sixth gear in your HPDs as well. So just little bits of touch-ups on the cars as we see Callisto into the pit lane. But these are different little settings that you do during your setup process that you can either go and get a setup from the major's garage, or you can sit and try and put it all together. I would say the major's garage, having the use of professional help, especially with these cars that really require a bit of mechanical knowledge to carry through, working out what gear ratios were where to carry the momentum forward, but at the same time trying to figure out what is going to be the best to have the mechanical grip to come into play. The Aston Martins, very, very tricky because they're extremely high revving cars. You need power band. You need to ensure that you can keep going through the order so that they actually run into a bit of a lull coming into turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, just trying to get these cars out before you need to get back into the rev ramp. So that being said, Mike, a great battle between first and second in the GT1 field. Drivers seeing what they can do at the moment forward, and who is going to stay at the top. Eric, who runs in third place, up 15 positions from where he started. continues to try and close down the distance, but just is way too far off back. 13 seconds off our fighting duo of Nathan Dowd and Austin O'Neill, who continue to open up the distance and push each other a little bit harder. But while pushing each other, they are also burning way more fuel than they had planned. The faster you go in lap time, you are starting to feel it over and over, and that is going to be a critical moment for when they need to do their final stop of the race. Who is going to be able to really open up the distance? Who's going to be standing at the top come the end of it? Each of the drivers not having an easy time here, and with first and second keeping each other rather busy, they need to think about what is the game plan moving forward. I do want to also point out that on these cars, you're not working in liters when you're doing setup. You're actually working in kilograms. So you're not working on 120 liters. You're working on 60, 90, 120 kilograms of fuel that is put in. So you're working on added weight instead of how many liters. Now you've got to convert what your fuel levels worked out in kilograms to liters and work your way back from it as well, which just adds that extra bit of technicality, and it's why I love these car pieces, because it just goes and makes you use your brain more and more. So we've just gotten word from our stewards that car 10, Trevor Vorosky, has got a drive-through penalty for multi-contact. So Trevor Vorosky has got a drive-through penalty for contact. That was early on, and he looks like he's going to be diving pits. Instead of going and appealing it, he is going to carry on, get into the pits and do a drive-through penalty. This is our first steward penalty handed out during the course of this race, and that was contact with of Brian Zinn a little bit earlier on in this race, and not quite what you want to have. Trevor doing a pit stop will have to serve a drive-through penalty to see how it works, and we'll have to keep an eye as we keep an eye on our closest fight out on circuit. Our leaders have now caught up to Trevor Vorosky, who's just left pit lane with a fuel stop. There was no tire change on him. He's got a fuel stop, so he's got warm tires but a full belly, and now has also O'Neill and Nathan Dowd all over the back of him, running in tow. Nathan is going to be looking to try and capitalize at the moment, knowing that there's an option here. Austin O'Neill just trying to keep it all together, gently braking, and actually braking a little bit earlier now, trying to knock Nathan off cam and keep himself in check. We got another one. Car 90 has got a drive-through penalty on lap 44. So another penalty coming into play, and that's for Travis Walling in the HPD class, has now got a penalty. Mike, it's starting to get a bit insane out there, and we are seeing the penalties. What was originally quiet, with the last couple of moments left of this race, it's coming in thick and fast.
Yeah, definitely. You know, unfortunately, this is for something that happened back on lap 34. The stewards, I believe, were very unsure of how to rate this one and deal with it. You know, so it's definitely a big blow here at the end of this race. You know, as we have just over 25 laps, or sorry, 25 minutes left in this race. So it's definitely very unfortunate here for these last couple of drivers.
Also O'Neill into the pits, Nathan Dowd into the pits, and that is going to be sweet, sweet music for Christian to try and close up. The question is, is Austin and Nathan gonna take tires both into pit lane? We keep an eye. Will they go on the jacks? Fuel being dumped into these Aston Martins. Who is going to be taking a set of tires? Or are they going to double stint them for the last 24 minutes of the race? And Christian, trying to get his way around the final corner, will be standing on the gas, seen both in pit lane. And it is going to be Nathan first out of the box. He will not be able to get ahead of Christian, but will now try and push his way through. Nathan, who is on his old set of tires, Austin on an old set of tires, Christian, who is on the oldest set of tires. We'll have to see how he moves up through the order. He's retaken the lead, but now Nathan and Austin have to try and make their way around the circuit.
Yeah, O'Neal definitely lost a lot of time there in the pits. As he has now fallen back just about 7 seconds to down. So unfortunately, I don't know if he'll have enough time to close in that gap here because Dowd and O'Neal, they're running just about the same lap times, the last 5-6 laps. So unfortunately, I don't think O'Neal's going to be able to get any further up than where he's sitting now in that third spot.
A little fight starting to build up in the HPDs is actually the likes of David Baker and Ryan Worley are catching up to one another, seeing where they can go. So each of the drivers move forward, but there's another little fight. Kevin Hill, Dallas Patuka, Brenton Foster. We're starting to see drivers now getting a little bit, and we're also getting a little bit of a discussion going on for drivers. Trevor Vorosky saying that he's actually self-served his penalty and reporting back to the steward saying, I self-served my penalty. Can I get that black flag cleared? Trevor managing to self-serve it, gets it cleared instead of charging through. So a bit of an interesting call there. Instead of waiting for the black flag, he self-served the penalty and carried on his race. Sebastian and Travis Walling fighting each other. So landed up with a penalty, now trying to carve his way through. But it's getting busy out there, Mike. Yeah. It's getting insane for each of the drivers. And now we're into the last run through. 21 minutes to go. And already I can hear the drivers all starting to feel a little bit worn out as Dallas Patuka and Kevin Hill landed up with a bit of contact with one another. Patuka and Hill, unfortunately, contact further back. And there is Kevin Hill trying to get himself going. The two of them rubbing shoulders with one another. The AV Esports having to come to blows. Not quite what you want to have with your teammate. And I think there's going to be a very, very pits, but that's helped out Brenton Foster to get onto the back of Dallas Patuka.
Yeah, I want to come back real quick to Bobrowski, self-serving his drive-through. I believe that there might be a rule that they are not allowed to self-serve and that they must serve that, serve that black flag once it gets connected to him, because when he did get that black flag, he did stop for fuel. So at the end of the day, that could have very well given him an advantage, instead of just doing the drive-through and then having to come back down for fuel. That I don't know if the race officials are going to have to go back and take a look at that, but it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen with it.
Our race officials will start taking a look back. I know that it is a concern. There was a little bit of a discussion where the drivers are saying, yep, no, landed up going in through pit lane. But I don't think many knew that he actually came to in his box and then got going. So the officials will take a look at it, make a ruling on has he spent enough time. But I have to agree, I don't think that is not quite what you want. As Ron Steele also alerting the grid saying, listen, I'm going to be pulling into the pits, notifying everyone around him, hey, listen, I don't want to be caught out here. I don't want to deal with everyone piling into me. I'm going to rather go and keep things in check. So an interesting call, but we'll have to see how it all plays out into the race as the final pit stops start to happen in the last 19 minutes of the race. It's time to move forward and see who is going to keep up the pace. Brenton Foster tries to continue to move up the order. He's got Dels Patuka just ahead of him and hoping to stay ahead. But it's Dowd in second place behind Chandler, who is having a great race out there. And what it would be to get a Chev on the podium against the Aston Martins, which is more heavily favored here at Sebring.
Yeah, the last two races for the international and Euro regions, Aston Martin won. So it's going to be definitely very interesting to see here if Christian can pull away with a win in this Corvette.
And there is a penalty coming in for car 27 on lap 28 with car 32, and that is Shane Vicari landing up with a penalty. So the race control going and notifying, and will be issuing a black flag for a drive-through on multi-car contact. This is the one thing about it. You get heavily penalized if you land up running into the slower cars, or vice versa. So you've really got to take that bit of caution. You don't want to land up this late in the race scoring drive-throughs. Take for Vicari right now, a penalty is going to throw him out of the top 10 and is going to be definitely scratching his head of what he needs to do to try and recover sometime in this race, as Travis Walling is behind him. But we've also got another little fight in that Jackson, and just on screen right now, that's Joseph Human, who is fighting tooth and nail. This is where you start making the... And the Fusion team are going to be clawing for any points in their championship. Remember, it's a driver's championship and a team championship at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. You know, these drivers really got to, remember about that. You're not only running for, yourself, but you also got to think about your team too. So you don't want to drive your teammates too hard and possibly cost them positions, because at the end of the day, it's going to cost you points in the team championship battle. So it's like these guys, they have like 4 or 5 different races going on throughout the whole entire season.
Well, if you look at it, you got a drivers champ, you got 4 different championships. You got your overall, you got your drivers championship, there's 3 of those. You got your team championship, that's 5. At the same time, you're also trying to get enough points that you match up with the rest of each of the regions. And this is Daniel Howard. Oh, massive contact in the rear, spun around, and Daniel not going to be too happy with that. That's already down in 38th position, will be feeling the pain and going to be really mincing his words in that helmet. The Dog Bear team, unfortunately, there's no way of getting past it. Absolutely sent to the shadow realm with that bit of contact. The speed difference between the HPD and the GT1 through the corner was way, way too vast.
We're taking a look now here at the battle for 5th place between Worley and Batson. Now it's a battle for 4th as Baker came down pit road. So this battle is really heating up here for that 4th spot.
And this is where we start to have a bit of a question, because remember, Garen was on a slightly different pit stop strategy to the rest of the field. Ryan Worley is in line with every other of the HPDs. Garen's a little bit on the unknown, whether he's going to have enough to get to the end. 14 minutes left. This is a critical moment. The last thing you want to do is go through pit lane. That 80-liter tank, well, you're going to do everything you can. And with these cars, you're going to start considering, what do I need to do to change inside the car to ensure that I can move forward? You start looking at your engine mapping. Can I turn the engine mapping down? Can I lift in different areas to try and make it work in my favor, to try go that little bit more? He's in the slipstream. That means it doesn't have to be as hard as on the throttle as what he needs to be. Take the slipstreaming in terms of NASCAR. The front car is at 100 to 90%. Second car is running between 85% and more. So you see Lionel Callisto doing a bit of rally in the HPD. Can't be comfortable and definitely going to be feeling it in the kidneys. And once again, landing up into the weeds, trying to clear some of that dirt, and also dragging some of the dirt onto the race circuit, as well as Moxie catches a slide, keeps it out of the wall. But for the Forge Racing team, having a little bit of a moment, now trying to take a little bit of a breather, but Baton keeps on the charge. Trevor Vorosky is the Aston Martin to clear, as it's Ryan who gets past, no problem. Garen on the exit of turn 1 is able to go, but lost a bit of time. A little bit of a lockup ahead of them, coming in from one of our Aston Martins from the GT1s, going and landing up into the weeds as well, outbraking himself into 2. And that is Daniel. Oh, talk about Dogbear team having a bit. So out of 1 into 2. Oh, just locked it up and had to try and keep it all together. Not what you want to have. The tires getting flat spotted at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to point out, we have just about 12 minutes left in this race. That means there will be no caution. So this race will go flag to flag without a slowdown, because we will not throw a caution in the last 30 minutes of the race. So these guys kind of got lucky here, but that might, again, Garen, he pitted when we still had just about 49 minutes left, I believe it was. So it's going to be very interesting to see if he can make it the final 12 minutes here.
Gotta just take a deep breath and see how far you can go. I mean, these are always a tough race indeed for drivers to really start getting that climb back up through the order, to see who's going to stay at the sharp end of the field, who's going to be able to move forward. But once again, remember, championship points on the line here. This is the last couple laps that you've got. You need to try and take a deep breath and go for it. For Garen at the moment, it's all or nothing to close down the distance. Late on the brakes, couldn't quite get the pass done on Ryan. And you can see really attacking those curbs now, trying to maximize the drive, trying to see where he can get that little bit closer. Vicari is having the same thing with Homan. We have got little fights starting to happen in not only our HPDs, but also in our GT1s as well. Everyone just trying to claw away their last couple of positions to ensure they stay in the running order. So at the moment, oh no, talk about nightmare. This is into Sunset Bend, running out wide. Oh man, big impact into the wall. Just understeer, and that is a collapsed front suspension pulling into pit lane. Has he got a fast repair on that car, or is it tickets for the Aston Martin? As taking a look in the pits, he has got a lot of damage and is not getting going. I've got a funny feeling Daniel is out of this race. Fast repair used.
Just looking at that impact, that made my lower back hurt. Just watching that car just pile hard into that wall, and oh man, and I say this, you know, a lot of times during my broadcast that I do. Thank God this is all virtual, because some of these hits that we take in the sim, God, it would be so hurtful in real life.
Well, I think that impact is the equivalent of catching your pinky toe against a coffee table at night on winter. Because,
Possibly.
well, not possibly. Imagine being in an accident with 9 minutes left in this race, because that's what he just had.
Yeah.
9 minutes left in the race. You got so close to the end, and that is how it's ended for you. That's how your race has ended. In the final 9 minutes, the car locked up. It got understeer. You were too quick into the corner, and thud against the wall. You've gone this far. You've brought yourself to Sebring, and now you're out of the race. You're not going to see the checkered flag.
Yeah, definitely very heartbreaking there, and you know, he can scratch this one off of his season, but now he's just got to really focus up and, you know, really come out banging it with the remainder of races here.
So, as drivers pushing a little bit harder, Ryan and Garrett continue on their fight as one of our closest fights out on circuit, trying to see where they can go. A little bit of a great run here. Fourth place is going to be good for the points on both sides. 7 minutes remaining. Robert Nash and Ross Banfield, no change in position, but one driver that we haven't spoken too much about is third place, Austin Peterson. Trying to just keep it all together, has been in a little bit of no man's land, keeping out of trouble, keeping himself consistent. His lap times have been, well, no real problems. His best lap time was actually on his, and just having an easy time and looking for a cool third place in the HPDs. Another little fight starting to brawl into our GT is Dallas and Brenton 5th and 6th in class, running 26th and 27th overall. In our GT1s, as a close brawl with the Aston Martins, trying to see who can get the advantage. Brenton just ahead of Dallas Patuca, the 25, who is on a monstrous run at the moment. He had a bit of a coming together with his own teammate. Sorry, not his own teammate, so they've just had the same coloured silver cars. But with Dallas Patuca and Brenton Foster, it's a fine push for the top 5. Who is going to be able to keep that top 5 and carry the momentum for the championship? And, I mean, these are always lots and lots to think about. This is Eric Smith, unfortunately, running into a little bit of a problem. It's on the brakes. Oh, just locked it up on the diff. Went down the gears way too fast. The sector 5 getting down. And nearly. Was that Christian Chandler that got around him? Yes, it was. Yeah. That had a near miss moment. And first place nearly landing up in a world of hurt. And Kevin Eaton, unfortunately, getting caught out. There's Christian Chandler. Oh, man. Oh, boy. Talk about turning your race seat, going and chewing it to Mohawk. That is one way to have it.
That was definitely very good heads up, driving by your GT1 leader right there out of Christian. You know, that's a championship driver right there. You know, things happen so fast inside these race cars. You know, him able to pull down and just, he'd rather take an off track versus crashing the car. So that's definitely good heads up driving out of Christian there.
But I've got to point out, these cars are showing another fundamental difference to the GT3 counterparts we're so used to. And that it ties in with the supercars, because it hasn't got a shift protection. So in other words, it will shift down when you tell it to shift down. The computer systems are older school in that, where it relies on the driver to come down the gears naturally. However, it's very easy to lock the diff. Like the supercars, you come down a little too fast, you lock the diff, and it causes a spin. Mark Stevenson having that exact problem, going down the gears a little too quickly and locking that rear diff. This is showing the drivers are getting tired. Those mistakes come in. And unfortunately, more and more drivers are facing that very fact. You come down the gears, third to second, if your revs are too high, locks a diff, game, set, match. And it's why these cars require a different driving style.
Yeah, these cars are definitely very unique, you know, out of probably out of all the cars on iRacing that we do have available to us, these are definitely probably some of the most unique ones that we do have, because, you know, you can go out and drive a NASCAR car kind of similar to the supercar, but at the same time, you can go out with these cars, kind of drive them like a supercar, but it's still a whole different, you know, fundamental of, you know, progress throughout the whole entire race. So this is definitely probably the most unique car that we do have.
GT1's always a bit of fun. Change up at the top of the field for the HPDs. Robert Nash getting ahead of Ross Banfield as we now into the final 3 minutes. It is the race for the lead. Ross Banfield down into second place, losing a bit of time to the likes of Robert Nash as they move forward. Austin trying everything he can to close up the distance in third place. Will be focusing on his drive at the moment to see where it's all going to turn out. Travis Lister fighting out in the HPD class as it is now getting a little bit unhinged for the HPDs. The GT1s have now got a little bit of breathing room. One another now maintenance, as we did have Lionel Callisto off into the dirt, and Travis Walling going to be quite happy to get a free position. So Lionel Callisto once again locking up the diff, but it's Homan who is into pit lane with a meatball flag. Homan into the pits with literally 2 minutes to go is damaged and out of this race. Homan will not see the end of this. So this is where it goes wrong. Oh, GT1's lost it, and he catches the front left. Oh, Eric Smith. Man, oh man, into Sunset Bend, getting all out of shape. It is Bryce Roberts, who looks like he got the tank slapper for the Fusion Silver America. Got close, and wham! Just enough that he's okay, but for the HPD, which is a lot more fragile, unfortunately, taking the hit on the way through. Oh, 2 minutes to go, and that is how your race ends through it all. I mean, that is just a heartbreak of note as we got our leaders of the HPDs going. Garen Batten and Ryan Worley keeping close with... Here we go, last lap. Garen Batten and Ryan Worley fighting out for 4th and 5th position. Charging down the back straight. Ryan Worley flashing the GT1 saying, please, we're coming through. We're coming through. Give us space. Garen's going to go around the outside. 3 wide through Sunset. It is a huge gamble on his part, and it just puts the GT1 flat in the middle. My hat. Well done to all the drivers. And Garen saying, hey, listen, I'm coming for you, but what a move around the outside with 1 lap to go. Ryan has got to get his elbows out for the fight. He's got to see where it's through, but it's Robert Nash coming and making his way through to the last couple of corners. What a race through it all. Foster with a drive-through on the last lap. So Foster will have a penalty when he crosses the line. That's going to allow Patuka to come on by. But our race leader, with 1 corner to go, Robert Nash, who will take the victory here at Sebring for the 2 hours of Sebring AMR in the HPD class. What a stellar drive. And that is going to be Ross Bamfield and Peterson going and fight their way through for second and third. But it's still a charge down. Garen and Ryan continue their last run down to the wire. Ryan only just a fraction ahead. Not enough time to really open up the distance. He's going to have to hope to get so defensive that Garen has no option but to back out. Got a little bit of a run down the back straight. This is for 4th in the HPD, and overall there's an Aston Martin in the way that they're going to have to clear, and it's a big look down towards the inside. It gets to open up. The Aston lines out of the way, but it is going to be Ryan Worley carries the momentum and finishes ahead of Garen Batten right at the line. Literally 0.2 of a second across the line. Christian Chandler will take the victory in the GT1 class with Nathan Dowd in second place. Austin O'Neill will take 3rd place in the GT1 class. What a race, folks. What a race. 4th place goes to Eric Della Riva and Dallas Patuka in the top 5. There's Bradley Haley having a little bit of a moment right at the end of the race. Down the gears, locked it up on the diff, and that is just a little bit of a moment at the end of the race. But man, oh man, Eric Smith also having a last minute moment into the dirt and busting the rear front of the car. He was able to get that car back to the pits, but unfortunately now not able to see the check flag the way he wanted. Bryce Roberts, as we saw, going a little bit wide, spins it out right before the line, and that cost him a few bits as well. Drivers right at the last getting caught out, but Robert Nash excited about his victory, and what a victory it's been. Robert Nash, congratulations on your 1st place overall, 1st place in the HPD, and to Chandler, who took the victory in the GT1 class. Wow, oh wow, Mike. What a race. What an absolute race.
Yeah, that race was absolutely epic. You know, and I'm going to point this out again. You know, we just did 3 2-hour races here on the Major Series, and all 3 races were just absolutely beautiful, as it looks like we are down here trying to get a photo op going for these drivers down here at the over here at the hairpin.
Absolutely wonderful, wonderful stuff. As we get a beautiful shot.
Wait for me.
GT1, HPD, all set up and ready to go for a beautiful photo op. That being said, we do have the 3rd place in our GT1 to come and have a chat to us. It's Austin O'Neill to come and have a chat. Austin, welcome to the commentary box. And what a race out there for you, battling out with the likes of Nathan Dowd for so long, from the start of the race right through to the end.
Yeah, that was really fun. I looked at our qualifying times, and we were like, within a tenth of each other, and I knew that the first part of the race until the prototypes got to us would be pretty tight, and I didn't expect it to be, I guess, anything like that. But no, it was really fun to sit there and ride, nose to tail with those two. I got to watch Christian, Nathan, and Ross do the Bathurst last year, and I was probably 20 seconds behind, and I got pretty jealous of that. So it was just good to have my place in that little train. But yeah, it was a tough race. But if I
With that,
go ahead.
I was going to say, with that being said, these cars, something that not often get jumped into, we get to jump in GT1 and the HPDs. What was the reason for jumping into the GT1 for one? And how was the experience out on Sebring? I mean, this is a difficult circuit just in any car. And now you're in a GT1, which has got plenty of power underfoot and traction a little less so.
Yeah, so I'd never raced this car until a week or two before this race happened, and I've mainly been like a GT3 and a sports car guy on iRacing, and it was an easy learning curve and transition. I tried the HPD, and I don't know, it just didn't really kind of vibe with me, but it was tough to get used to. This car at least has traction control, but it doesn't have ABS. So trying to figure out how to be aggressive and race hard without the ABS in a car that I'm kind of forced the habit of having is was tough. But I start of the week or start of the preparation for this race, I was not a fan of this car and I wanted nothing to do with it. Um, but after spending 4 hours in it today, I'm definitely a fan and I'd like to see it come back in the future.
Now, how do you feel about your championship hopes? You came into this race leading out the championship. You managed to get your podium for the GT1 class. You feeling confident to take the fight into round 4? Are you feeling a little bit more nervous and getting a bit closer to you?
Yeah, no, it's business is still as usual with the championship. We're only 3 races into it, so a lot can still change, and with drops and different, disciplines coming up in the next couple of rounds, it's still wide open, really. I'm not too worried about it. My goal was to at least have a podium with today. I knew that the door would be wide open with some guys on the HPD side to get some points on me, and then obviously Nathan and Christian got some points on me as well. But the way the points work out for multi-class racing, if you just kind of stay relevant and close to the top 3, you're going to be okay. So I'm not too concerned with it. We're going to go to some of my strengths here in next couple of rounds. So uh, hopes are still there. Still a long way to go, but it's going to be definitely an interesting end of the year. But I definitely look forward to it.
Well, before I let you go, anything you want to say to everyone here at the major teams at track, but also to the incredible petrol heads out in the virtual grandstands that are cheering for you right around the circuit, showing the Fusion Gold America's flag on the corners, going and shouting, "Go, go, go."
Yeah, I can't thank the Fusion Sim Sport team enough for all their hard work for this round. In the past couple of rounds too, we've had a really good start to our year, and we've had a lot of momentum, rolling in our direction. So I can't thank them enough for all their hard work and enthusiasm with what we kind of have going on. But no, it was good. We had a couple new guys on the pro team this round with Garen, kind of coming in and filling the seat. So it was good to see Garen get a good run, and Sebastian had a pretty good run as well. So not really sure how we look on team point side. Mega and UDocs think had a pretty good day. So we'll see. We'll see how things shake out. But if it wasn't for them, none of us would be possible, and we'll head on to the next round.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. Austin O'Neill taking third place in our GT1 category and managing to snatch that last place on the podium. Absolutely incredible stuff being there. But Mike, you have managed to catch up with the likes of Nathan Dowd, who came second place in the GT1. Nathan, welcome to the commentary box. And I know Mike
Sorry about that.
has got a few questions for you. Mike, over to you.
Yeah, Nathan, what an incredible run out of you in that 07 Aston Martin. Your race was pretty quiet for the most part. What was it like trying to chase down Christian, and were you worried about Austin O'Neill behind you at all?
Yeah, I mean, trying to chase down Christian. He kind of short pit there on the first pit, so I was a little surprised by that. So I knew that I would make up that time about 8 seconds or so. I think it looked like on the second pit, assuming he wasn't saving a ton of fuel somehow, which I don't think he was. So I was really just trying to keep pace with him with his lap times there and just keep that gap, and hopefully I'd come out next to him after the last stop. But, and then we just had a little incident with the multi-class there, kind of lost some time there. So at that point, unless he made a mistake or we got a safety car, it was kind of going to be really tough because he was very fast. And Austin, he was just as fast too. So honestly, I don't know. It looks like he lost some time in the pits. Like, I'm not quite sure why. I feel like we were running similar times, and then I was just somehow ahead of him by like 6 seconds after the pit stop. So I'm not really sure what happened there, but yeah, it's unfortunate. That's how the multi-class goes. So
Yeah, definitely unfortunate here. But so far, you're off to a very strong start of the season. With the second place finish here, what kind of momentum will you have leading up into the next couple of events, and what can you do next time to bring home a win?
yeah, it's been a decent start. First round was okay. Daytona was looking really good, and we got caught up in the late instant, and yeah, so that'll probably be a drop. But yeah, I mean, just kind of, this is a good result. I was really hoping to maybe get the win, but whenever you're up against guys like Christian and Austin and the others in this field, that's never gonna be easy. So it's gonna be tough. There's a ton of good guys, really fast guys, so gonna have to practice a lot. I think the next round's kind of a weird one with the dirt. I think it's the dirt legends or something. So no idea what to expect there. So we'll see. We'll put in some time and kind of learn those cars, and that's what I like about this series is we kind of do wacky stuff like that. We bring these cars kind of out of the, get the cobwebs off of them, and they're a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm all for the weird combos and the old cars, and so we'll give it our best shot.
Yeah, I love to call this this series the Jack of all trades series, Master of nothing, as you guys don't have enough time to become a master at just one, but you gotta definitely change it up every single race that we do here. So I did see a lot of Sector 5 flags flying around and a couple homemade signs as well out there. Is there anybody that you'd like to give a big shout out to before we let you go today?
Yeah, just the rest of Sector 5 guys. Help with setups and paints and all that, and just having people to practice with. They're always fun to do that with and run these races with. And Garen and Mike and the guys running the league, and you guys doing the broadcast. So this is always one of the highlights of the year, running these races in this series. So because of guys like that and guys like you to make it what it is. So yeah, just all those guys.
Yeah, definitely. And well, Nathan, congratulations on your second place here at Sebring, and we look forward to seeing you next round.
All right, thank you.
Now, that being said, I managed to catch up with the one, the only, the Chevy that went dry. We managed to catch up to Christian Chandler. Christian, welcome to the commentary box. First place in the GT1 and is the only Chevy that managed to sit in the top 5. How are you feeling with that?
I'm pretty happy with it, honestly. I felt like it was going to be a pretty competitive race between myself, Nathan, and Austin, and it really was. I'm glad that nobody does the strategy split that I do in these races. Whenever that second, well, when it's like 2.5 stints or something like that, like I always like to really split the fuel load for that second and third, so that it's like properly in half kind of thing. It seems to work better for me, but it also seems to be kind of the divergent strategy. I've done that a few times in this league, and it always nets like a little bit of a buffer to play with. And yeah, again, that seemed to be a helpful thing for me. It broke me away from those guys, and yeah, it got a little bit exciting. I think like 4 laps to go. one of the other Corvettes spun in front of me. I nearly collected them. It was really close, but yeah, it's always interesting. Again, last time we did the GT1s, I'm pretty sure I was one of the only Corvettes as well. I know that general feeling is that people like the Aston a bit more, but anytime we get to run GT1s, I just really like the Corvette. So even, you know, I've never felt like I'm at a disadvantage with it, if I'm honest. I just feel like I'm in a different car to everybody else. Like, it's fun in its own way, and that's enough for me.
Well, I've got to ask, because how does it feel for your first ever podium here this season? 3 rounds in, you managed to not only get yourself on the podium, but a victory, and really taking a big chunk of points with you. You came 9th in the championship into this race. You now rocketing yourself up towards the top 5. There must be that little bit of excitement, that momentum that you're going to be taking into round 4 of the major series for the Americas region, and also getting to show the likes of Trevor Varotsky, who's currently sitting in 3rd, the likes of Jackson Wade, Austin O'Neill, that you are a serious competitor going for the top spots.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bad start, really, if I'm honest. Obviously, 5 flags didn't go great. We got flipped over, but it happens. Daytona was also not looking too good at one point. It salvaged towards the end. So kind of in a hole immediately again, same as last year, really. So nice to turn it around a bit earlier. It's become a lot harder to win in the league than it used to be. Like the field strength is just much higher now. So yeah, it's definitely nice to pick up another win. And yeah, for sure, it's gonna help out going forwards. Still, a lot of rounds to go, but nice to be getting out of that hole a bit early. I mean, Austin had a great first 2 rounds, and I mean, even here he's 3rd, so still a lot of work to do. He's still in a great position, same as Nathan, really. And then even my teammate Mr. Nash, we call him kind of the silent assassin, because he just turns up, does his race, and tonight it's like he wins. So yeah, it's good to pick up points where the opportunity is available.
No, absolutely wonderful stuff. That being said, you took the Chevy to the levee. It's not dry. It comes up with gold. Anything you want to say to everyone here at the majors, to all our partners here at majors, to the drivers and teams that are participating, but most importantly, everyone that is cheering you across the line and is definitely going and shouting Mega Racing Team for you taking the victory in the GT1. Anything you want to say to the race fans out there?
Yeah, just honestly say a big thanks to everyone else at Mega, and like I say, Nash had a great night, Austin had a great night in 3rd. I know CA kind of got a bit undone right at the beginning, but still was able to salvage a 6th. Unfortunate night really for Brent. He had a really strong pace. It's probably outright pace, like one of the strongest rounds he's ever had in the league, and just got a little bit unlucky tonight. But I think we all had fun, so that was great. Yeah, big thanks to you guys for doing the broadcast. Big thanks to Mike and everybody at Majors for running the league, and yeah, really big thanks to everybody in the race too for just making it a really fun experience. We were talking about it before we even got started, that we don't get to race these cars very often in a strong field, and it's nice to be able to do that. And I think all of us really had great battles. So yeah, a good night. And yeah, thank you for everybody for putting it on and turning it up.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. Christian, congratulations on the victory. Go and enjoy the celebrations. Well earned. You have the 2 hours of Sebring in the classics. Well, Mike, it's a great one, but now we say farewell to our GT and we look to our HPDs, and we're going to have a chat to our 2nd place driver, Robert Nash, to come and have a chat to Mike. And you've got Robert Nash with you here at the moment.
2nd or 1st? Wait.
2nd place, Robert Nash.
Yeah, all right. Robert, for some odd reason, my standings is telling me a little something different. But Robert, what a good run for you overall. You came came back and you were able to take over that second place with just a couple of minutes remaining there. What was it like battling it out there, and did you anticipate the finish that you had today?
It was fun. It was a good race. My results say that I'm in P1, so I basically executed perfectly from the start.
Yeah.
Ross and I had some pretty good battles, and after about halfway, I kind of put my head down, pulled out a gap. I know Ross had some trouble with traffic, but overall, probably one of the best races that I've done in majors, and I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I'm showing here that Robert Nash won the race. Ross Benfield got second.
Yep, yeah, that's it.
So
That's
Oh
what I
well,
see.
got the victory, managed to move forward. Robert, with being out there at the top end of the field, how was it fighting through the traffic, especially with the GT1s that are mighty in a straight line, but also having a lot of understeer through?
Yeah, it's interesting in any multi-class race. You kind of spend the first half hour or so figuring out where they're gonna go, where you can pass, the safest places, the more unsafe places. Generally, I try to make the safe decision, but I do have I pick out a few points on the track where if I need to absolutely make a move, I can do it. And luckily, didn't have to do that today. But they were all pretty good. It was interesting. They have some good off corner speed, so it was kind of tough in some situations. But yeah, it was
Now,
fun to race with those guys. This
if you
car combo is great.
if you had to pick out your favorite on-track battle, because you had quite a bit out there between yourself, Spanford, Ryan Worley, Garen Batten, Christian Abbott also coming into the mix. You were in some proper side-by-side combos for the first half of the race, and then it opened. What was the highlight for you on the circuit with the HPD?
Definitely the first half of the race battling with Ross. We were going back and forth quite a bunch, touched a few times, and I was just talking to him. We said whoever comes out in front at that battle was probably had a good chance to win the race. So that's what I tried to do, and I executed it and I did it. But yeah, battling with Ross was great. He's a pretty good driver, and I like racing with him. So.
Now, as a UDOX driver, you came into this in 11th position. You finally got to get a win and a top 5 in round 3. How's the momentum feeling heading in for a little bit later on this year?
Pretty good. I hope I can keep up this momentum and be up there at the end of the season fighting for the championship.
Well, it's definitely going to be an interesting one indeed. The main thing is, which do you prefer, running on dirt or jumping into these cars for some road racing?
Personally, I prefer these cars, any prototypes on the road. The dirt race I am looking forward to. That's something different. I don't do too much of that, but I am definitely looking forward to it.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. Well, before we let you go to celebrate with the UDOX Lola team, anything you want to say to the drivers out there that are racing and to everyone in the background here at the majors, but most importantly, the race fans that were cheering on? Now, I'm sure every time you went past, you could see them lining the circuit.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for watching. I want to thank all my competitors for racing today, and looking forward to the next one.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. Robert Dash taking the victory in the HPD class and walking away full points, and also right at the top. I mean, not an easy thing to do. But Mike, we have got second place, and that is Banfield to come and have a chat to us. You've got them all mic'd up, and welcome Ross to the commentary box.
yeah, Ross, what an incredible drive out of you in that 777 machine. you made a last minute effort there to get up into second. And what was going through your mind the final like 15 minutes of this race leading up to that pass for second?
Honestly, I knew the guy didn't have the pace just because it was just from pit cycles. So I knew that I was gonna be pretty much locked into second place. Really, my eyes were on Robert, and I was just hoping that you'd have a spin or maybe like traffic would hold him up. But I just kept getting the short end of the stick the entire race. So we are dead even on pace. So there's just no hope for me once he got more than I'd say like 7 or 8 seconds ahead.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. What do you feel that you could have done different in order to catch up with Robert there? Just overall throughout the whole entire race.
I mean, I could have tried defending harder against him. I was just trying to like stick together, and really, I'd say after the second pit stop when I tried to undercut, I was hoping the safety car would come out because it's like an RNG chance that it would come out. And then
Right.
I think once after 20 minutes passes, the chances of that are locked. So after the 20-minute mark, it was basically his race to win and his race to lose. I was just trying to hope that I could undercut him by doing a short stop once he got more than like 4.5 seconds, 5 seconds, because I just kept catching traffic. He would get around them, and then I would catch it in like turn 3. So every time he was catching traffic, it was more in like a straightaway or a fast turn where he could not lose as much time. But every time I was catching, I was losing like a half second to a second.
Yeah, for sure. And my final question for you, Ross, is what kind of momentum does this do for you for the remaining part of this season? You come here to Sebring, rock it out in second. So what's it going to take for you to stay strong the remainder part of the season?
Honestly, this race feels more up in the. I mean, not this race, but this season feels more up in the air than any season I've done before. Just because some of the guys that we know are really competitive are just kind of on the back foot right now, and we had like one of the drivers get like what 2 wins in a row.
Yeah.
So that's like huge when you include drop weeks. I'm more of a like modern day like open wheel prototype specialist, and there's not many of those on the calendar this season around. So I'm kind of just rubbing my lucky charms over here and hoping that the ovals go well for me.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, those lucky charms will come true. And before we let you go, I saw a couple Ross Banfield flags and signs over in the paddock areas and everywhere. Do you got anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go today?
Yeah, just the UDocs team. They're just great to hang around, and it's just been fun being with them for the last, I think, like what, almost like 6 years now. So hopefully another 6 years to go with them. So
Heck yeah, definitely a long term relationship with a team is definitely one of those special relationships that you don't ever want to lose. But Ross, congratulations on your second place, bud, and we'll see you probably next week if you're running in the 6 hour.
thanks. See you.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. And Mike, what a race and a half for round 3 of the majors series. We say farewell to the 2 hours of Sebring. Having so much fun in GT1s and HPDs. What's your takeaway from the race? Because there is so many highlight moments from 3 wide through Sunset Bend, 2 prototypes either side of a GT1 that's hanging on for dear life, from close shaves with Christian nearly having his entire lead taken away to the highs and the lows of this race. What would be your takeaway from it?
Man, just all around, just what a phenomenal race that we saw here today. The first half, I actually got a message from Race Control saying that they were getting bored. Nobody was, really doing anything outrageous. But then that last half, things started to get picked up because the drivers knew the time is coming. Now we got to be aggressive. And when they really found out that the safety car was not coming out, everybody went 100%. So all around, it was just an absolute phenomenal race. Great side by side, great 3 wide racing at times, as you stated. Just I love this series. I really do, especially with this car set that you guys saw today. I really hope in future seasons we see, maybe one more added to the season. Hint, hint. Because it seems like everybody really enjoys this series combination right here.
A vintage racing championship. That'd be an idea to throw some of those cars in. Lotus 49s, 79s, our Audi GTOs, Nissan GT.
I will have to hang up my
GT1,
microphone.
GT2.
I will hang up my microphone for that.
It will be an interesting one, folks. But as said, coming up this week on Saturday, we're going to be kicking it off with round 2 of the Majors Endurance Championship. 6 hours of racing. It's going to be really a lot of fun for the drivers to really see what they can do and who's going to be able to move forward. A huge entry has been made for it. So we've got our qualifiers running. But for the MEC, the Sebring 6 hour, we're looking at 172 teams entered to rock and roll around. And entries are still open, not only for the MEC, that you can go to www.majorseries.com and purchase your entries into the MEC, but also to the Major Series if you want to be part of this incredible run to drive a variety of cars, show off all your skills from oval, from dirt to road, from classic to some of the fastest machinery out there on circuits that are wide open to the narrow streets. It's going to be a great one, and that's coming up. But we also got to talk about the likes of our Dirt Derby at Lumberland, which opens up on the 7th of March for the entry. Green light on the 28th, on the 30th of March, heading into the 1st of April, depending on your time zone. But you can go and join in at www.series.com and drive the legend around Lumberland Motorsports Park. That being said, a massive thank you to all our partners, Whiplash SimCams being a part of the show, making us get all these amazing shots with Mike Taylor. Also to Majors Garage and our sim racing stewards as well. Big shout out to all our partners here at Majors. Big thank you to everyone working out in the background, but also a thank you to the drivers, to the teams that support the Major Series. Keep it growing, keep it moving forward, and most importantly, to you, the race fans, out on the virtual grandstands, cheering on from the outside, going and keeping everyone motivated to keep pushing, to keep going forward, and joining us as we trip around the world in all 3 regions of the Major Series, and as we go and visit some of the most iconic circuits in the world. Make sure you hit the subscribe button along with the bell notification icon as well here at the Major Series. Keep an ear out for our podcasts, for all the chats with our drivers, a bit of a debrief as well with them, and our upcoming events with a twist that come through that you find out at the exact same as the drivers entered into that championship. Massive thank you to Mike Taylor, who has been your director, has been your commentator, and keeping the show moving forward. From myself, Stephen Koenig, we'd like to say thank you very much. And like always, a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody, from the Major Series.